Canadian snap election, Trump supermajority, 72% of Americans. Folks, this week has been explosive, damaging to Canada, explosive destruction of our economy, any viable path forward with the United States as we continue the march straight towards China. Can't make any of this up. As I told you all, the evil, narcissist, lunatic, socialist, and fascist Danielle Smith, Alberta, is big waves in the United States. Alberta's in a bad place. All of Canada is. But you've all got to hear this. Oil drops. America sitting at $57 a barrel WTI on, if you call it a high close. Brent crude, UK's crude, its sphere of influence against Russia, sitting at $61 a barrel. Your Canadian Select, your WCS, no reports available. I guess not. And Danielle Smith's telling you the pipeline to China, yeah, $5 less than the differential of the United States. Folks, if you can't wake up, you're gone. This country is fastly approaching gone. I've warned everybody. Sanctions, trade embargoes, that's what tariffs are. That's what all these mechanisms against our industries are. Our block on trade, Trump's deals with other country, no foreign investment into Canada. Hello, it's called a trade embargo. You're under tremendous sanctions. You're under tremendous trade embargoes. The worst countries in the world end up that way. Trump made a deal with Australia. Rare earth minerals and metals. Don't need you, Canada. Told you, we'll replace you. Idiot politicians, lunatics like Danielle Smith, low IQ individuals. Mark Carney. Oh, sure, high Oxford IQ. Criminal genius? That's not the same as a real life make it big genius who uses their talents on a fair platform of equality. That's America. That's a lot of Americans. And you know what? That's not any Canadians in any large majority. I'm not saying there's a lot of second-class millionaires out there all throughout the provinces who did it all on their own. Hey, kudos to you. I'm not going to take that away. But let's be real. The hundreds of billions of dollars missing year after year in Canadian deficit, supporting all these government-run or influenced businesses or civil societies, foundations, and on, bureaus, boards, agencies. There's mega names for them. So many not-for-profit, but is entirely for profit in Canada's Oxford. Absolutely at the rape, pillage, and plunder, financing all your politicians to grandiose wealth, and a lot of these people becoming billionaires by stealing, not being the best, but having access to all the government subsidy, all the government protections, so that nobody else can enter and compete on a fair leg or level. This is all provinces, all premiers, all prime ministers we've ever had. Absolutely 99 percentile of premiers. There's never been hardly any honest ones. And even the supposed best of the best that we Canadians in our institutionalized brain say are so great, we're committing all kinds of horrendous frauds and crimes, embezzlements, trafficking. They were participating. They got rich. They got cornered in markets, monopolies created just from their elite title. Not what they know, not what they can do, and certainly not with them investing everything of them. It's an old story. It's all of what Canada is. Something the United States has said, you know what? We won't accept this anymore. Bernie Sanders on a pulpit getting smashed by the left. Donald J. Trump implemented all these protections on all these union industries. All your loyalist people, Bernie Sanders, are gone. They're with Donald J. Trump and MAGA now. Yeah, they were giving him the gears. Share the video. Share lots. I show a really great piece that me and Benjamin touched on years ago, and I filled in the rest of it because you lose track of so much in America. And during Joe Biden's position, Marco Rubio got into a committee to investigate Canada, everything about Canada's crown, its monopolies, its subsidized system against America under Joe Biden, and a pushed bill by Joe Biden, Senate adopted, pushed and passed, and then it went to House and it went quiet for over a year. House wasn't getting into it seriously. Then House came back. This is where I lost track of it in mid-2022, and in the link of this title I give you all that. And this is a Marco Rubio, high in the Trump administration, still Republican then, but working on this committee with the Democrats in power. Senate bill not to their liking, the borders and other issues. And who? Canada. 2021. I highlighted that, I actually found the post and what's going to come of this, but Congress wasn't into it for all kinds of American provisions on other avenues of that bill. It went dormant for a year. It fired up in the link of this title, and Mark Rubio and a whole team of the Trump administration now, shadow team at the time, but first administration team, worked on it, made it acceptable to Congress. As you all should know, Joe Biden didn't have Congress. He didn't have any kind of majority. In fact, he lost his House. House then redrafted a new named bill. Continuation of that, they passed it. All what we're going through today, orchestrated, designed with full cooperation of Joe Biden. We even wrote about it in late 2022. I didn't look at the bill because he changed its name. It just didn't red flag for me because I'd followed the first Senate bill. And in the link, I show you all the history of it and Marco Rubio's design on Canada. Joe Biden accepting that, not in rubber stamp, because he's the president. He didn't veto the legislation passed by Senate, passed by Republican-led Congress, and everyone's calling Trump a socialist, although these were all Democrat initiatives they wanted. And it's Democrats who are large and in charge, especially the unions who are falling in United States to Canada's scabby system. I know I'm in American Union International, and we're falling in Canada. We've been falling for a long time. And the government takes more and pays out less. Takes more and pays out less. While Americans are standing toe-to-toe with that, Donald Trump comes in. They worked all of that during Joe Biden's reign. Democrats love that. Now here's Bernie Sanders, who was the initiator. When you look at who was the senator, guess who it is? Bernie Sanders. I gave you the link today, video before this. I don't give you a link in this title. I give you a really important link, but then I give the interview of Bernie Sanders before this video. You can watch that where the left is hammering on him going, Donald J. Trump did all these initiatives you all supported. You couldn't get done with your Democrat base. Donald J. Trump has approved and accepted all of them. Bernie says, yeah, it's true. Oh, yeah, but the 1 trillion. And what about health care? Well, Bernie Sanders, and they're all tagged in this, Marco Rubio, Donald J. Trump, the solution to your health care crisis is much larger than $1 trillion. It's called Canada, the 51st state. You were also the first Democrat and senator in the United States to get on a public pulpit and support it after Donald J. Trump's announcement. The reason why the House and Senate, the government shutdown, everyone shut down, folks, is because Trump isn't approving the $1 trillion for centralized, socialist, most like communist China or Russia, American public health care. Okay? Don't get this confused, because Americans always get their elbows up. Sorry, but you're wrong about this. And I know your country better than a 90-some percent of Americans. Not to be rude or diminish, but I've studied your district systems like no other American other than your high academics. And I've gone further just in the narrative of statehood, because they're not interested in that. I mean, historians, but not legal experts, not constitutional experts. But I've gone to all of America's best constitutional experts. I've been going through that, sharing with them, and it's awesome. I love it. And now there's a mass amount of those left Democrats. These are somewhat mainstream Democrats. Most of the time Democrats, but if the right American president comes along, we saw this with Richard Nixon, we saw this with Ronald Reagan, and we're seeing it now as I give this video this week with Donald J. Trump. And Bernie Sanders is like, well, yeah, all the things he's loved for many decades since, in fact, Reagan was the last. He was very young when Richard Nixon was in, and Bernie wasn't there yet, but now where Bernie is, and all these things that Nixon had done, and then Reagan had done partials, and now here's Bernie for all these decades later going, rah, 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 and then Trump comes into power, goes, yep, there you go, Bernie. And now Bernie's base, the mainstream base, the bread and butter of what he is, and a big leg of the Democrats, not the radical socialist Democrats. These are hard-working Americans, enjoy their stability in their jobs, want a future for their kids. They care, and they will go with what they see materializing for them. And that's Donald J. Trump. Currently, 72% of Americans are going that route. And Bernie Sanders, you were the first for Canada, the 51st state, universal health care. Whether you understand this or not, my old friend, Donald J. Trump understands this extremely well. That's a $7 trillion impact on American health care just by the Canada 51st state district health care model at the state level where it's constitutionally supposed to be. Blows Doge out of the water. You can't get an AI model when you put in all my inputs and then you calculate Canada. That's way cheaper anyway. People say, well, but your outcomes are worse. But we have mass immigration. We have mass legal but illegal in America immigration. We have 8 million, way more than America, who's 9 times bigger than us. That's what we got going on. And in the event of your imposed federal system, your legal immigration system that takes all that power away, because there won't be any more provinces. They'll be chopped up into a state district system of Canada, like all the other 50 states of the Union. And in that model, the only thing in Canada that stays the same is universal health care. And under a new program and a wipeout of all these non-Canadians who would be made legal, universal health care becomes drastically even cheaper than it already is compared to the American system, and many times more effectual for public, more encompassing, more effectual by a grandiose level, because we haven't been there, Americans or Canadians. We haven't been there in more than 20 years. Absolutely, since Stephen Harper 2008, we drastically fell off. And every Canadian, if you're honest with yourself, you know this to be true. When you go to that American imposed immigration system, all in Canada's legal, that are already legal in USA, removed. No more provincial PNP programs. No more temporary foreign worker. All these insane, radical, most radical immigration in the world disappears. And ICE is working 8 times the scale of what they are in the United States right now, just on Canada to secure North America. And all of a sudden, Canada becomes this beautiful economic boom. All of a sudden, the healthcare district model, that's a state called Canada, that is huge in public sphere. We're not talking private. And again, for every American and Canadian that doesn't know, America is 2-tier health, public and private. In Canada, we're public and private too. Absolutely. You just never hear about it. Private's ineffectual. The companies get away with everything here because the superpowers of the public system. Why does employers have to pay any of that? But we do have private. It's as good as America's, not even close. But we have 2-tier. Obviously, the two models together in private and our public, there's a $7 trillion savings. Because the feds no longer run a centralist, socialist healthcare system that doesn't encompass every American, a leftover unconstitutional in America since 1786. It's been unconstitutional. Why is it here? Why is it in America? Because the Continental Army carried on. And that health care given to the Continental Army and now the U.S. military continued on since the War of Independence, since the first 9-year Constitution, Articles of Confederation, Confederated Army. And that healthcare system, centralized, that may have worked in America's really, really far past, but clearly it doesn't work in model in time because America is entirely an advanced district model system on every level, onion with many layers, massive. And I know Americans may not dig into this. You think, well, congressional districts and blah, blah, blah. You've got military districts. You've got district after district after district after district after district system. Your broken system alone, the single source of the highest cost to your astronomical federal debt and deficits, is your centralized, sorry public healthcare system. You've got 2 versions of it. Hold on to seniors here, military, women who are pregnant, and children up to the age of 12. That's all they cover, and they do a hell of a crappy job on the public level. And working Americans not only have to pay all that public, they have to dig in their own pockets to pay a separate private that most of them don't qualify for in the U.S. public system. Now, this is why Bernie Sanders and a lot of other Americans, including Donald J. Trump, and why Canada, the 51st state, on a constitutional challenge, will win that in statehood. A Supreme Court challenge in the United States. You line up all the majority of Republican justices. You line up all the Democrat justices. Now, what do I mean by that? In Republican terms, that means people who follow the rule of law as it's written and rule that way. They don't interpret nothing. They read it in clear words that everyone understands. This is what it says. This is what it's supposed to be. As it was then, as it is today. Yeah, it was unconstitutional to begin with. Canada's right, a new state of the union. All justices would rule that way. Now, Democrat justices. Why are they called Democrat justices? Interpretive. Well, the changing times of now, the changing times of now, and just how much debt and deficit you take, that massive federal deficit on a centralized, very socialist equivalent to communist China public healthcare system, or civilized socialist Russia. Not very good models at all, cost a ton of money, crank on the taxes, crank on the debts. Sorry, or you got a crappy healthcare outcome, which is truthful for American. And I'm just being honest, everybody. This is what Bernie Sanders said. If Canada, the 51st state, means universal health care, I support it. Literally 3 days after Donald J. Trump made his first announcement in December. Donald J. Trump is gone through a ton of 40 years of Bernie Sanders wants out of the Democrats that he's never ever won. Donald J. Trump has signed through executive order and had bills drafted through the administration, through Congress and Senate passed now, that absolutely do everything old Bernie Sanders has wanted for 40 years and could never get out of his Democrats. All those Americans who've wanted all that on the Democrat side have fled now to the Republicans. They're like, we're hardcore Republicans. Bernie knows the fallout's substantial. He knows it's almost all of his base, besides some serious radical left. But the common sense, mainstream Democrat support of Bernie Sanders is quickly flying over to Donald J. Trump as he's passing all of Bernie's always wants that he's banged on his base for 40 years over. Donald J. Trump in 8 months has got 60-some% of them. And the only one Bernie can't get is some kind of fix on healthcare and the illegals and the rest of it. It's like, Bernie, 3 days after Donald J. Trump announced Canada the 51st state, you announced, yeah, I 100% endorse that for universal healthcare. Well, that's the legal reality. And Republicans outside of these Democrat systems, there's one thing I can tell you about Republicans that I love more than anything and why I identify most closest to a Republican is because of rule and law and constitutionalism. And as it's written, so it shall be. And all the ability to work within the system and rule of law to make changes and win the majority and all of it. That's me. That's me, the would love to be we the people with all my heart. I'd love to see that done for Canadians because it certainly isn't that way. Bernie called it out 3 days after Donald J. Trump's first announcement. First senator to endorse it on universal health care. That's where we are, Bernie Sanders. That's why your government's locked down. Trump is not blowing another trillion on a centralized socialist healthcare system. But if you can support him and your base, and they get the super majority and they finish and they blow Canada the water economically, well, that district model can come forward. Nothing else will. Trump's destroying everything else, but that universal healthcare model will come. And if Canadians wake up fast enough, everybody, if you wake up fast enough and you start banging on your politicians, 51, 51, we can save universal healthcare. We can be the most prosperous state in the union. Because when they say, oh, you'll be number 3, Americans don't do the analysis that I've done. As Benjamin Ebley knows and Jonathan Bahai, there's no one who's done the actual legal and economic analysis in as much detail as me. That's when we have 8 million legal illegals in Canada. When those non-Canadians are removed, all of a sudden, Canada goes from 3rd to well ahead as number 1. No more crown land. Every American in the United States, there will be a new Wild West, a push north, where you can go up north in these vast stretches, where First Peoples in Canada have been settled out. Massive 200 to 500 times more land than they have now. Easily done by Trump. Any American president could do it. Easily, snap of a finger. They've been doing this, everybody, for well over 100 years. They've been on this program in the States. So coming to Canada, oh yeah, Done. And First Peoples would be like this. Whoa, what just happened? What do you mean I have title of hundreds of acres? What do you mean those are my resources? What do you mean I have water and mineral rights? What do you mean I have all these things? If we codify a constitution on those bases, right? Just like statehood. Same with Canadians. And then all Americans, Canadians and Americans, can move to so much more land than you can ever imagine. All of us, even with the 342 million Americans. I know foundational Black Americans would love that after what happened to them in Reconstruction and the promises from the Civil War. Can you imagine that settlement? Or the Iroquois in the United States who fought for the British, who have nothing in the United States. Can you imagine when the other 3/4, yeah, did you hear that? 3/4 of your lands is sitting there with nobody on it, right? But it doesn't compute because the institutionalization and brainwashing and the generations go on and no one talks about it until along come Donald J. Trump, who is already working on it with Marco Rubio and his Trump administration shadow while Joe Biden was president. Remember rubber stamper Joe Biden? And he was all, I'm glad everybody got along and got this legislation done. Thanks for helping with Canada, the 51st state, Joe Biden, right? But that was Senate and Congress. And that was partisan, Democrat and Republican. And when you look at that, that's at 72%. 72% Canadians to destroy you in 2022, midway through 2022. That's how it passed, Republican and Democrat alike. And that's where Donald J. Trump continues to go. He was working all 4 years off. He had all his people working all 4 years off. He was ready for this term. And for all his rhetoric, all his posts, and everyone who run him down, the man's a genius, organized, can create a team, a group, quietly run it while mouthing off and all these other topics, but running a different program the entire time. And I lost track of it, and God bless you, Benjamin Ebley. You brought that back to me, and I saw the original post in 2021, and I posted it, and then I remember that, and it drifted off. I just thought, okay, Congress squashed it. The Republican Congress squashed it. And then here, they changed the name, rewrote it out, Senate accepted it, it went through. Joe Biden stamped it, right? So, folks, if you don't realize that a majority of Americans are going to smash Canada, the tomato, into a puddle of ketchup, runny, wet ketchup. And they're going to continue to do that until you tell them what they want to hear. Canada, the 51st state. Now you can elbows up. You can elbows up. You can support Daniel Smith. Yeah. Pipelines to China at $41 a barrel. Yeah. Hey, hip hip hooray. Since January, all of us Albertans, and I'm an Albertan, I'm an ashamed Albertan, disgusted and ashamed. We have put millions and millions of barrels of oil in China's stockpile. Yeah, it's all Alberta oil. China's been stockpiling that new source of millions and millions of barrels a month. They've been stockpiling it. They're at 34 million barrels of oil. Oh, Alberta. Oh, yeah. Right? Oh, Trump, Rubio, Saunders, they all love you. It won't matter, Democrat or Republican. Soon enough, Canadians. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You've seen the tariff announcements. You've seen the shifts and deals with our fellow Commonwealth countries. Oh, Australia. Oh, no, we can't do that to Canada. Oh, where can I sign? What did Keir Starmer do? Oh, where can I sign? We won't invest sweet nothing in Canada. Oh, Canada will give you all the loans, but we don't want to piss Trump off, and we like that we're going to exploit all your Canadian subjects, our low-tier subjects from a far-off land. You're going to not only have to pay us the inflation, because the lender don't eat inflation. You crowd know that. That's America who makes the lender eat inflation. Not anymore, Canada. Your little transition carny, you're going to eat all the inflation. Your filthy, low, degenerate subjects and Indian savages, they're going to eat all the inflation. And on top of that, all of our investments are insured and to be paid out. All dividends and interest and payments to pay us back in USD, losers. Because the crown loves you, right? Charles is right there for you, Canadians. Oh, hell yeah. What's the next one, New Zealand? When's New Zealand and Trump's announcement going to come? Sorry, Canada, you lost the Arctic. New Zealand's not helping out anymore. Next thing you know, it's going to be Sweden going, sorry, Canada. We won't even be able to get to our own Arctic. And we can't without them. And then the media's putting propaganda. Canada's going to rise up. You're not going to rise up shit. Canadians, you know this in your heart. Friends, followers, share. Get this epic video. This week is deafening and damaging. The destruction of the CAD is epic. With the newfound loans, foreign investment, insured to be paid back, all dividends in USD. Does that sound like elbows up or a mighty fine UK fist right up your ass and out your mouth? I'm sorry to be that graphic, but these are the truths. And I don't know how to make the impact any more real or graphic than that. That's where we are now. And I don't think Canadians get it. As plants are being shut down, people commenting on the EV announcement. Oh, well, that was blah, 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 Jim. GM took a pile of money from the Canadian government, the Ford government, ensuring they're going to continue on with that. I don't agree with EVs, folks. But I'm sorry, which I want to do SMRs. I want to give you that final presentation, the last stage of our communist China transition by all premiers, all provinces, all federal parties. Doesn't matter. No matter what Pierre says, he can't go any other way. They're too wealthy and rich. Well, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think Pierre's going to go the other way, piss off China, and then have to answer for his checks cut 10, 6, 8 years ago from China while he was in charge under Harper? Well, what's he going to say then? Oh, I don't want to go to jail because in the American system, you go to jail. Canada, they get away with it. So they're not going to go with these narratives. Why would they want themselves prosecuted and doing time? As I promise you, every last one of them is going to do time. Daniel Smith is not a god, a hero. With 34 million Alberta reserve barrels of oil in China since January. It's October. Albertans, numbskulls, you're the war on America. The largest war on America. And guess what? UK's being affected now too. You've hammered Brent. You're working for BRICS. You're the number one source of China's current great strength and negotiation power against USA. And you were working on it for many years, all of Daniel Smith's 3 years. Is that conservative? Is that conservative, Canadians? Is communism conservative? Is communism liberal? Is communism NDP? Is it Green? Is it Bloc? Go through all the provincial parties, whatever spectrum they call themselves. What is it? Because it's certainly not the narratives they pretend to be that are American. They're 100% a sick socialist and fascist truth of criminals who've done heinous crimes against humanity over and over and over again. And in World War II, everyone got a free pass. Educate your citizens, change your system. Canada just went, fuck you. Okay, the day has come. Started in 2021, 72% of Americans, major Republicans, major Democrats, we are fucked. Share the video. I know it's strong language, but it's up to all of you to get it out there, because there's soon to be no going back, no effectual reality, no 51st state. Could be upwards of 75 years of sheer poverty. Our window is closing fast. April is just around the corner. I know, winter coming, and you still got the winter season and then spring. Man, 5 months comes and goes like that, and we're still banging the same drum we were banging in December. Have we grown by 8,000 people? Are there a lot of new people sharing? Sure. But that is not the effect that we need. We need millions. It's up to all of you. Share, share, share. Get the video out there. This is credible, real, undeniable, 110% verifiable. Just the link in this title. That's not me. That's published. That's truth. All my publications this week, all my pictorial and screenshot and write-ups, that's all real. That's happening. These things I predicted many, many, many months ago. And we haven't got to April yet. And it's a lot worse than the predictions I made. I can tell you, it's escalated. Here's my predictions. Nail, nail, nail. Whoop. Whoa. Whoa. That just took a ski jump. Whoa, where did that guy come from? Where did that come from? Ski jump. This is becoming exponential. What is going to be April? Is it going to be over before April? And we're tits up? And we're living this reality forevermore? And USA don't want us no more? Share, share, share. Get the video out there. It's up to all of you. God bless. Bye now.